The Daily Investor ran an interesting story about household income. They claim that Cyril Ramaphosa celebrated as white and Indian household incomes have declined. Ramaphosa celebrated the narrowing gap in household income between race groups, which resulted partly from a decline in white and Indian household income. At the Black Business Council Gala dinner last month, Ramaphosa told the delegates gathered there that black economic empowerment is good for the South African economy. Now, never mind the fact that that's horse manure. He added that in terms of household income, South Africa has seen progress in narrowing the gap between racial groups. But that gap is narrowing in no small measure owing to a decline in income among whites and Indians, one far worse when you consider that over the dozen years in question, from 2011 to 2023, all household incomes should have conservatively grown at 2% per annum. In essence, this means that white household income in 2011 was 691,000 Rand. At 2% growth per year in simple growth, that figure today should be 877,000 Rand, but it's actually lower at just 676,000 Rand, or minus 2.2%. So over a dozen years, not only did white households not gain larger incomes, they lost 2% when adjusted for inflation from a dozen years prior. That's 23% lower than modest growth would have achieved. This is a disaster, not something that should be celebrated. For Indian households, it's even worse. They lost 8.1% over those dozen years, declining from 454,000 in household income to just 417,000. With 2% growth, that should be at 563,000 Rand now, 26% higher than it is. Folks, household income is not a great measure of prosperity or standard of living. Household costs vary widely from year to year and location to location, plus households vary in size. You have kids, they go. You don't have kids, you add kids. You have parents move in. So household sizes vary. So income is not the best data point. Still, given its unreliability, Ramaphosa should not be touting a stat that is so embarrassing, particularly when one considers that much of the increase in black household incomes is a result of social grants. It comes out of the pockets of productive class who are carrying these social grant recipients on their backs. It's not real growth. It's not real income. You are stealing from one group of people, making them poor, and redistributing wealth to other people who are adding nothing to the economy. Aside from the fact that's morally bankrupt, it's stupid. Now, these figures are already adjusted for inflation. Real household income is the nominal income adjusted for inflation, reflecting the actual purchasing power of the household's income. The decline in household income of white Indian families and the increase in black and colored families is what Ramaphosa apparently saw as positive. So he's celebrating that whites and Indians are suffering. The Daily Investor correctly notes that it raises the question whether the president celebrated the rise in black household income or the decline in white household income. The Daily Investor also looked at real household income in U.S. dollar terms, and things look grim on this chart. It doesn't break it down by race, but it does by household income. In real U.S. dollar terms, South African households are much poorer today than they were even in 2011. In 2011, the real average household income in South Africa is $29,000. In 2023, it's only $11,058. That's a 62% decrease in real household income in South Africa in U.S. dollar terms since 2011. This is insane. And Ramaphosa thinks this is good. This is condemnation of black economic empowerment. Black economic empowerment does not account for the 46% increase in income to black families. Social grants play a large role in that. Contrary to Ramaphosa's claim, this is not good for black economic empowerment. This underscores the failure of black economic empowerment, and the fact that he would celebrate the narrowing of gaps is disgraceful. Now, if white incomes had grown 23% at a 2% margin, but black income had grown at 4 or 5% and narrowed the gap, then we'd have something to celebrate because a rising tide lifts all boats. But here, the tide isn't rising. The tide is sinking. Or the tide is receding, I should say, not sinking. The tide is receding, and everybody's suffering. Black household income's up 46%. Yeah, because you're pouring out social grants that weren't there before. It's not because the economy is better. It's not because the things are growing. And you're celebrating the impoverishment of whites and Indians. That's disgraceful. Shameful. But hey, it's the ANC. Statistics. People use them for their own means all the time. But I'm here to tell you that this is not something to celebrate. It's something to mourn. South Africa's collapsing. It's failing. And when we're all dirt poor, that doesn't make life better. If South Africa's black households grew at 4 to 5% per year, white and Indian families grew at 2 or 3%, then we'd have something to celebrate. The gap is narrowing. But when one group is dragged down and the other group is lifted up artificially by social grants, that's not growth. That's not something to be proud of, Cyril. It's something to be ashamed of. But either you're too stupid or you're gaslighting the public. Which is it? What say you, South Africa? Cheers.